I just don't know anymore. So many different things are just stressing me out. I mean, I'm I'm almost scared to get into it because of the fact that I'm recording and it's public, and even if it wasn't public, I mean, I still would be very skeptical to just say whatever came on my mind. Obviously, I'm going to a point, but so I have no idea who watches my videos. I doubt many people, if any, do. I don't post enough, and my work isn't good enough quality for it to develop any form of fan base. But I do put them out there when I can. So. But in case you don't know, I have a fiance. Things have been off and on and off and on with us for various reasons that I just won't get into. But I love her to death, and we are definitely getting married. A lot has happened, and long story short, she doesn't live with me. She doesn't live near me. I have not been able to hold her in months. I obviously still love her, no less than when we started, but she's just so stressful sometimes. Not with her personality or anything like that. I think everything about her is just amazing, but the stuff that she goes through, and I genuinely worry, you know? I very rarely worry about myself. I'm self-destructive sometimes, in fact, but when it comes to other people, especially her, I get significantly more stressed, more concerned, more invested. She's living with this guy right now, kind of depending on him. If without him, she would be homeless. I don't think she really realizes that. I mean, obviously she knows it. She's aware of it. But I don't think she realizes what that means. What that could potentially do for her or to her. Because they're constantly fighting. Which, I mean, isn't necessarily bad. Obviously, you don't want to fight people if it's not necessary. Or at least I would think so. Apparently he doesn't. And she just doesn't like it. Obstacle after obstacle, I've overcome things that I never thought I'd even have to deal with. Things I never thought I'd even stand a chance with. That just keeps happening. And I met him, and he seems like a pretty cool guy, but he's lost. And he doesn't even realize it. And the longer that I have to wait for what I'm paying for, the more badly I want it to just get here. Which is a familiar feeling. And I'm sure everyone's had that feeling at some point or another.
UAV inbound.
There's this guy that lives near them that guy just seems like such a
Sheriff
douchebag.
authorizing care package drop.
I mean, does illegal things and
Can confirm.
he's a bad guy, don't get me wrong.
Smoke
Guy
check.
that my fiance lives with just wants to fight him all the time. For no good reason, just because he's one of those low-key macho man types. Not the typical kind where he's always trying to fight the most random people for no reason just to prove he's tough. Not that type of guy. Like, no, he's better than that. But he feels like everybody who wrongs him needs to be taught a lesson. And this is not true. And if you can avoid it, you always should. Dude's a scumbag, but he's still a human being, and people forget that all too often. These people... I understand the anger of knowing what someone did and feeling a way about it on a personal level. And I know that this is not popular opinion. And it's gonna sound horrible, but I'm gonna say it once. Just once, and then I'll keep it out of my mouth.
Firebreak. KIA.
But if someone wrongs you and you feel like you should get even with them, then you're just as in the wrong as they are. It doesn't matter if they deserve it or not.
Drop them.
It's just like saying the worm is mad at the bird for carrying away his friends, his fellow worms. So to get back at the bird, he's going to himself turn into a bird so he stands a fighting chance. He's going to, or better yet, we'll say it this way, he's going to take away all of the bird's friends. But if the worm does that, how is he any better than the bird? Because he's a worm? No. What you start out with does not in any way define the value of your life. The same way that it does in anyone else's. Regardless of who you are or what you've done, your life is worth just as much as everyone else's. And I say that knowing full well what some people have done and what people are capable of. And I do include those very bad people in that. I'm not saying that they shouldn't be punished in any way, shape, or form. They definitely should be punished. I will never think that. I'm not an idiot. I'm not naive. But their life is still worth just as much as every Christian, Mormon, whatever religion, as every sheriff, and we'll say charity leader. Every good person in the world. My life is worth no more or no less than yours, than O.J. Simpson's, than Barack Obama's. Now, like I said, I'm not naive. I understand that, you know, we'll work under the assumption because there's a lot of conspiracy with it, and I don't want to cause any riots or anything on the off chance that enough people see this to cause a riot. For the sake of argument, O.J. Simpson did it. Don't try and tell me, oh, he definitely did it. There's no, for the sake of argument about it. We're just going to say that. And vice versa, by the way. We're just saying it. Regardless of if it happened or not, we're saying it. I understand that he should be held much more accountable for his crime than Barack Obama should be. I'm not saying Barack Obama shouldn't be held accountable. I'm just saying that Barack Obama's job was, past tense now, more important towards the safety of others and the well-being of others.
They're done.
But there's a reason why they call it a necessary sacrifice. At the end of the day, it's still a sacrifice. And it seems like as time goes on, the word sacrifice means less and less to people. People take the word for granted. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not one of these people who thinks that technology, is just causing the world to end or anything tragic like that.
Down.
I believe in innovation to a point. But people these days, they get their phones taken away. They get their tax returns taken away. They get this injustice and that injustice, and all of a sudden now they're making a sacrifice.
Demolition destroyed.
But the interesting thing with that is, walk up to someone who survived a war. I say survived, not fought in, survived a war. The civilians. Walk up to a Holocaust survivor. Tell them how much you've sacrificed, and watch the look on their faces.
Sector down.
Losing your phone or something that made life easier is not a sacrifice. It's maybe a loss. It's just unfortunate, really. But it's not a sacrifice.
UAV inbound.
It's just the loss of a privilege. That's it. Technology is a privilege. It's not yet required for our survival. It's not a sacrifice. It's not yet damaging to us to be without it. It's not a sacrifice. It does not affect our mental health, our physical health, or we'll say spiritual health. So it's not a sacrifice. It's just unfortunate for you.
Threat neutralized.
Makes your life a little harder. Doesn't threaten it in any way, though.
EKIA.
And more people just don't realize that. They don't realize what's important. What's really important is us.
Threat neutralized.
What's really important is that we look out for each other. What's really important is that we care about each other. Because when we stop caring about each other, then it's a free-for-all. In lieu of a normal daily life. If we stop caring about each other,
Request resupply.
our world ends sooner.
Return. Sensors are capture your objective.
And people have stopped caring. Some of them have even had, they have to.
Sentry, ready for deployment.
Others do because they find it too tedious. And they've lost
Friendly UAV inbound.
respect for things of that nature.
Thanks for the work. Friendly UAV.
I'm sure there are other reasons as well, but the point is, we're just losing sight on what's important in our lives.
Friendly counter UAV inbound.
Understand, we have maybe a century to live. That is invisible to time's naked eye. That is such a short amount of time. It's unreal. They say flies live to be about 3 days, I believe it is, for the day. Yeah, it doesn't seem like a lot to you, does it? 3 days to them is 100 years to us.
Confirmed.
100 years to us is eternity
Hardened sentry,
to them.
ready to deploy.
Immortality to them. But to time itself, the overall expansion of it, if you laid it down and put it to where you could see the progression of it on paper, or figuratively speaking, you couldn't even point to the time you were alive.
Hardened sentry.
If you
Ready to
tried,
deploy.
you could not take a fine point pen and draw a line and get anywhere close to it. We don't have that long to live. We don't have as much time as we seem to think that we do. And so we need to make the most of every year. And we do, to a point. I'm not negating that. Every year people have New Year's resolutions, but most people never do them. Most people will say it in the moment because they get caught up in the moment. And then forget that for them, a year is a really long time. To be upholding this one thing that completely changes them. That they chose because they wanted people to think, oh, I'm willing to make this huge change in my life and go through the struggles that are associated with making this change. Because I'm a good person. But a word to the wise. If you have to convince yourself
Assassin neutralized.
or anyone else that you're a good person, you need to work at being a good person. Because a good person is so caught up in being a good person that they no longer need to tell anyone. It doesn't even cross their minds most of the time. I don't claim to be a good person. Not completely. I'm a very nice person. Insightful at times.
Fire break down.
But I can also be very stupid. Very pig-headed.
Smoke checked.
Stubborn, and sometimes even mean. But I always regret it afterwards, and I always apologize. Because that's the right thing to do. And it might not seem like much to a lot of people. You might think, oh, you need to grow up. You know, these are just things that you teach your kids because you want them to be like that, but no one ever ends up like that. And that's not at all true. We should all be like that. Those values that we try so hard to instill in our kids should stick.
Sniper.
There's no growing out of it.
Care package awaiting orders.
So you have a meeting.
UAV awaiting
You have to hurry up
orders.
and get to that meeting, so that means that you don't have time for pleasantries.
Ambush asset
Because
down.
you didn't do that. Now you started a ripple effect that will blow back in your face.
Lightning strike on standby.
And it's little things like these that people don't even bother to think about for some reason or another. Everything has a consequence. Good things have consequences just as much as bad, but no one ever thinks of that. No one takes the time to think about what they're doing. And I get why. You can't sit there and contemplate the pros and cons of every single little action that you do for the rest of your life. I understand how unbelievably, unbearably tedious that can be. But
Hardened sentry shutting down.
that doesn't mean you should shut down on it altogether either.
Enemy down.
Going back to my fiance and the guy that she's currently living with,
Threat neutralized.
I just really wish that they would learn that.
Battery kill.
I really wish she would just figure that out, and so would he. They would learn that compassion that I've always had. I wish I could give it to them. I could pull it out of myself and lend it to them for just a day. Because I know that once you feel that, even if it goes away, you still feel bad about doing mean things to other people. And you miss it. It's addictive. It really is.
Fire break extinguished.
But I can't.
Thermite charge. Look out.
All I can really do is sit back and watch as they bicker and get mad at each other and start trying to hurt each other, and then going back and saying, oh, I care about this person. If you care so much, you should try to come to an understanding. Find some common ground on these arguments that you have. But you don't, because you're right every time. And you can't admit that you're wrong, because it hurts. It hurts your dignity to be wrong, because that means that you're somehow less of a person. That shows some form of weakness, apparently, and I think that that is just absolutely absurd. While I understand the desire to be right, it's excessive to an unhealthy point. If you're wrong, it sucks, yeah, but learn from it. That's why it's there. And yeah, everyone says that, but there's a reason everyone says that.
In the turn, sensors are capture your objective.
Strike failure. Bad luck to me.
Fire break down.
Lightning strike on standby.
UAV MTL 50% check. ML. Airborne 2, double kill.
Acknowledged.
KIA.
UAV priority request received. Rerouting. Supplies dropped. Exiting AO. Established perimeter 10,000 feet AGL.
Anyway, I'm
UAV MTL 50% check.
going to make arrangements for her to move in with me within the month, so that's good. The longer I wait, the
Request received. Rerouting.
more upset I just end up getting. I know how that sounds. And I'm not dismissing the possibility. I'm not that ignorant.
You're my move.
But I'm also not going to dismiss the possibility that everything will work out. I have faith
Threat neutralized.
Care
in
package
my
awaiting
abilities,
orders. UAV ready
and
for
what I
tasking.
know, and what I believe. And that includes her. I have so much faith in her. So many hopes for what she will end up doing with her life. I mean, guys, she has so much potential. Under lock and key.
Spectre wasted.
Sealed away by evil powers of the past. The devil saw an angel and locked away the grace. And I'm trying to break that lock. But she just keeps making it so hard. Like she doesn't want it broken. Like she enjoys the pain. I know she doesn't. I know there are things that I don't understand, and I know the things that I do understand that I won't get into, that lead to some of the decisions that she makes. And that's why I'm trying to resist them, to fight forward, push through, all that fun jazz. But if she goes too far gone, because of the influences in her life,
Ice.
saving her is just as much for me as it is for her. It's not just her life that's on the line there. It's also mine. And the crazy part is, of course, if you knew me, that's not even my biggest concern.
Smoke checked. Assassin killed. Outrider killed.
Hostile UAV above.
Assassin killed.
Lightning strike awaiting coordinates.
Battery down.
Oh, that was a horrible shot.
TACOM. Request UAV. Eyes on.
Establish perimeter at 10,000 feet AGL.
TACOM. Lightning strike. On my mark.
Echo 1-1 commencing strikes.
Supplies dropped. Exiting AO. Midway, UAV fuel check complete.
Confirm 1 EKIA. Acknowledged.
I've
Dunbar
completely
1-1.
lost my train of thought.
Threat neutralized.
Guardian available.
I'm just so stressed about this whole thing.
UAV departing AO.
It's not even the only thing I have to be stressed
Guardian
about.
ready for deployment.
I like to organize my life in a video game
Guardian ready for
setting,
deployment.
or fashion, I suppose, or whatever.
Assassin neutralized.
My limitations are only defined by the control system. What controls have been given to me,
Assassin
being
killed.
my brain, the one pulling the strings, calling the shots, making the motions. And of course my body being the character in the game. And the things that I focus on being the missions. Not like an RPG, there are things, skills that you can pick up and learn and master
Enemy
and
down.
ignore. And there's
Spectre down.
paths and
UAV on
subpaths.
standby.
Metaphorically speaking, you could be the warrior, the rogue, or the
Care package awaiting
mage.
orders.
And then you can choose to be good or bad. And it's a lot like life. And right now it seems like I've got a lot of main missions. They're piling up.
Guardian available.
And I'm having to balance them so as not to fail any of them. To the point where I'm completely ignoring the side objectives. I'm ignoring the challenges, the other skills, the free roam aspect.
Nomad down.
The one I'm tracking now is her.
She's down.
And the objective is, as it's always been, to very sacred,
Drop them.
very simple words. Words that in this particular permutation are too often overlooked as trivial. And that's save her. Save her.
Guardian ready for deployment.
That's all I care about at this point in my life. And I know it's stupid. I'm well aware of that. You know, it's Fatal T, you should be
Guardian available.
getting your life straight first. Putting yourself before others so that you can build a good foundation for your life and go somewhere in life.
Guardian ready for
Do
deployment.
something meaningful with your life. Yeah. I'm well aware of that. Things are that simple for most people. Relative to my situations.
Ruin KIA.
And that's fine. I understand that's what you do. But just understand that's not what I do. Not by, well, to be fair, not purely by choice.
Contact.
I wouldn't say it was entirely forced upon me. But it's not entirely my choice
Bridge
either.
down.
Guardian available.
We forget that. A lot. That while there's always a choice, sometimes there's only one reasonable choice. Sometimes only one of the choices that you're given is one that you'll be able to live with. That's irrefutable.
Be advised, hostile counter UAV
Might as well
is
be
online.
a law of nature at this point.
Sniper, get down! Guardian out.
And in this case, I would never live with myself if I did nothing to help her.
Battery kill.
And she just kept falling below the bedrock. Below rock bottom. And she is falling without me. As it stands, with me there,
EKIA.
I'm not able to lift her up
Enemy down.
the way that I would like to, but at least my involvement is helping her to float a little. She's not falling quite as fast. The only thing stopping me is the distance between us
Ruin KIA.
and the procrastination of people I heavily rely on. I'm
Friendly
close to my
UAV
breaking point.
inbound.
I've been through
Guardian powered.
my various versions of hell several times. Time and time again, I've cried and I've screamed and at one point I went and I sought help just because I was concerned about myself, and
Spectre wasted.
it was always worth it because it was always in the pursuit
Infantry
of
kill.
something amazing. Something beautiful. Something I cared about enough to
Nomad
put myself through that.
Nomad down. Ruin down.
And that's not what I mean when I say breaking point. That's just when you crack. but the cracks can be mended, taped up so that they hold.
Wasted.
And now I have so many cracks that next time I crack, I may actually break altogether. And when that happens, it's all over. For me, for the ones that I love, for the ones that love me, for the ones that depend on me, of which there are plenty. People do depend on me. And their dependence on me, in a cruel twist of fate, give my life enough meaning for me to push on.
Shot out.
But those very same people are breaking me.
Be advised, hostile counter UAV is online.
Spectre wasted.
When you only live life for yourself, you hurt everyone around you. When you give in to your vices, tragedies happen. These are very simple lessons of life that go unlearned, unseen. Wars have started, been fought,
Wasted.
won and lost
Confirmed.
because someone didn't like someone else. And they let their emotions guide them. They let their anger take over. And they were so consumed by their anger that they became responsible for the death of so many people. So many lives were lost because you got mad.
She's down.
And it can happen. Even the most insignificant person can cause that to happen. It has happened before. People shoot up public places.
Threat neutralized.
There are bombings, chemical attacks, murders. Because someone was angry. Because someone stopped caring. Because someone couldn't look past themselves. I'm not gonna get too prophetic here or into religion just for the respect of those who don't agree with the things that I believe. But in Christianity, at least, they teach us that God weeps for his children. For how they hurt themselves, go to war, die, and get sick, and hurt each other. The evil that we bring about ourselves, that is not from Satan. It's not from the demons coming after us. We are the evil.
Shoot her.
Smoke. Hostile UAV spotted.
And God cries. He sheds tears because he is forced to bear witness to all of this. This is what his children have become. I don't pretend to understand someone of that level, be it God or anyone else, whomever you believe, but I know how that feels. I don't cry, but
Fire break
it just fills me
extinguished.
with such sadness Not major things solely. Little things as well. The tiniest of things can just be so heartbreaking. Raising your voice at the cashier because she gave you the wrong change. Or yelling at your brother or sister because they did something to aggravate you. They were messing with you, and you got so angry about it. And you lash out. And you feel bad afterwards. You apologize and you know you've made a mistake, but you still did it. You can't undo it.
Fire break extinguished.
And all you've accomplished
KIA.
is more hurt. That's so stupid. How people want to hurt those who've hurt them. Thinking it's fair and it's justice and
Shot out.
it's gonna make them feel better. And what's even more depressing is sometimes they're right. Sometimes it does make them feel better. If you've been hurt and you know how that feels,
Hostile and armed.
and you were an honestly good person, why would you ever wish that on anyone else? For any reason. And don't give me any of this crap about because they're bad people and they deserve what's coming to them. That's bullshit. That is straight up bullshit. Plain and simple.
Authorized UAV deployment. Battery kill.
10,000 feet AGL.
Iced.
Establish perimeter at 10,000 feet AGL.
Shot out. They're done.
If someone kills your family member,
Lightning strike on standby.
I understand the anger that you would feel, the pain that you would go through. I'm not saying that you shouldn't feel that pain.
Enemy down.
We got this.
All I'm saying is now you know how that feels. For a life to be lost. And as bad as it sounds, the simple fact that the only reason you felt bad about that is because it was someone you knew, someone you cared about, is horrible. That makes you a bad person. It does. Not nearly as bad as some other people. But you are not as good as you think. Just because you don't hurt people. You don't lie or cheat or steal. Yeah, that makes you a good person, but doesn't make you any less selfish. That is selfishness. That's selfishness in a well-hidden form.
Good work.
The 54I will never yield.
You see people, and I'm referring now, not before. I wasn't saying that everyone does that, but there are people that do that. Most people,
The 54 immortals crush all opposition.
they see it on the news. Someone got hurt. And they do feel bad. And they didn't know that person. They never met them, talked to them. But someone died. And they do feel bad. I like being around those people. I don't like seeing it. Because someone has to die for me to see it. But I do like being around those people. Knowing that that's genuinely how they would react. they're not just pretending to feel bad because that's what you're supposed to do, but because that's just how they feel about it. Take their memory away completely and they would still feel bad about it. Having no idea the social structure of where they are. It's going to be a rare trait eventually. I'm just happy it's still around today. I forgot where I was going with this. I don't in any of these videos guarantee that I will ever get my point across, but I can guarantee that I will try. If I feel like it. I'm not here to rant. This isn't a vlog. There's no set topic. It's just my thoughts said aloud. It's cathartic. And if you're still watching this video, thank you so much for listening. And thank you for watching. Cheers.